Sure.
At this point, I'd like to call to order the City of Saugatuck's Parks and Public Works Committee meeting for March 28th, 2023. Deputy Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Baldwin,
Here.
Chair,
Here.
Young,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Kimball.
Here.
And Roach.
Here. Okay, next up is the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move.
I'll second. Motion by Kimball, second by Roach, motion carried. Oh, you don't have to vote on that. Voice vote, right? I get a voice vote. All in favor, say yes. Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes are next. We have airport study group meeting minutes from 2/9 and regular meeting minutes from 2/28. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve. I'll second.
Motion by DeYoung, second by Roach. Can I get a vote?
Yes.
All in favor, say yes.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We are now in the public comment section. I don't see anybody online. I do see some folks in the, if you have a comment on the agenda, please approach the podium and limit your comments to 3 minutes, please. Seeing none, we can move on to review and discussion part, the meat of the analysis. So first up, we've got Department of Public Works and Administrative Updates. See our representative in the audience. Please approach the podium, sir.
Reports on page 10 in your packet for those who are following along.
I am. Thank you, Ryan.
Good morning, everybody. Springtime, we've got a lot going on as usual this time of year. So I'm just going to kind of rapid fire through some of the big picture stuff and spare you a lot of the little micro details. But just following up, every year we do quite a bit of tree work, and part of it is removals, which we've done over the course of the winter time. We just had a lot of the stumps grinded, so those will get cleaned up. And then more importantly, we're moving forward. We get the stumps grinded nice and deep, I think 18 inches, so we can replant exactly where they were placed before. So we'll get an order in for trees in the coming weeks, and we'll plan on doing plantings this spring. And then just a quick reminder, we'll have one more meeting beforehand, but we do have Arbor Day for our Tree City USA status. Part of it is, I'll give a report on kind of the annual tree work that the city performs, but along with it, part of the requirement is we have to do like just some sort of ceremony. So we'll have that. Time is usually 10 a.m. Location will be determined, but you'll get an invite to that too. And we invite any and all of you to participate in that. You can get, sure.
How do you decide what trees to plant?
So that goes off of experience. So, you take into consideration a lot of things. Is it an area where it's likely to be susceptible to salt exposure? A lot of trees can't handle that. How much room is there for canopy growth? Are there utilities overhead? Some trees are more likely to damage sidewalks, like locust trees. Their root systems are really strong. So it's best not to plant those near sidewalks. And so over time, you just kind of get a list of trees that you tend to use in certain locations. So, but at the same time, you also want to continuously learn about new varieties because, like, I don't know if you're familiar with like what happened with emerald ash borer maybe a decade ago by now, but it wiped out the whole population. So the best thing that we can do to protect ourselves and our urban forest from issues like that, invasive species and funguses and things of that nature, are to diversify the type of tree varieties that we plant. So does that answer your question? And a lot of sites too are helpful. Like I think the city of Grand Haven, they have like a nice list of approved street trees on their website. And so you can kind of, piecemeal things together from what other communities do and kind of build your arsenal from there. But but that Arbor Day, I think, is held on Friday, April 28th. So we'll have a meeting right before that, and I'll remind you at that point, but please join. So that's the tree plantings for the year. We did start brush and leaf collection in March. So citywide brush and leaf collection started. We'll do that once a month until fall. Then we'll move it into 2 times a month. So a really nice service for people. We have heard that there are some potholes around the city. And so we've started doing something about that. We've heard about it. Haven't seen them ourselves. But we're getting pretty aggressive about filling potholes. Right now, the asphalt plant opens up next week, Monday. We put a little public notice out that we'll be among the first in line to get a hot patch. But in the meantime, we're just supplementing our time with cold patch, which is a very temporary solution. And then we do have a plan that you'll hear more about in the works for maybe doing a more longer term patch on roads. More on that to come. So seasonal staffing, that's a big thing. A lot of times we're very shorthanded with the amount of workers that we have. For some reason, people want to bartend and serve tables versus clean the public restrooms and empty street trash. So I don't know why. But we have had a pretty successful run. We've got 3 out of the 4 positions, seasonal positions, filled for DPW. And then at Oval Beach, we've had even interviews last night. 5 or 6 o'clock last night, we had a couple interviews. So we're well staffed at the Oval for ticket booth and concession stand. We still need to get a few more beach patrollers, but overall, we're in pretty good shape. So very pleased about that. That doesn't always happen. And then on top of that, we did finally get the Oval Beach swing set installed. I think there's a picture of it in the packets. So thank you very much to the Daniel J. Reed Foundation. Worked with Pete and Susan Swanson along with Gordon Stannis in memory of some of their loved ones. And
Really nice.
thank you. We really
It's beautiful.
thanks a lot. We appreciate that. It was a long process, but we think it fits the space really nicely. And we're really pleased that instead of just the 2 or what do we have, 4 like traditional belt style swings, we've got zero gravity swings and also expression swings, which just promotes more universal accessibility. We love that. So that is done. Thanks.
Choices, by the way, sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
Nice color choices.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Not mine.
Oh,
However, I'm glad it worked out this way because I have a really good eye for needs. Like, some of the aesthetics are maybe not my strong suit, which is okay to lean on other people who have more creative
Really do.
visions for these types of things. So yeah, thank you to that 7,500 donation. Motor pool, we have a dump truck that I think I've talked about a little bit, but we have our chassis that's built for our 2023 International Workstar at the garage. That's going out to Truck and Trailer Specialties for the final outfittings of that truck in April. So that truck should be in service midsummer. It's a pretty quick turnaround once we get it at Truck and Trailer. So once that happens, we'll be rotating out our oldest dump truck, which is a 2009. We'll be sending that off to auction. So that'll get rotated out. And then because of supply chain struggles, we did order a new pickup truck about a year ago, and we still haven't gotten it. So we've heard that we suspect that we might take possession of it within the next month or 2, which is really nice as we get more staff. I talked to Helen a little bit about this, but just to give you an idea, we need to build up our inventory of pickup trucks slowly. So the plan for this one is initially the intent was to rotate it out just like our normal motor pool equipment. But I think we're going to hold on to the pickup truck that it was going to replace because we've really got 4 pickup trucks. Once we bring on seasonal staff members, we'll have 10 employees. So instead of me driving a dump truck to meetings or something, we're just going to hang on to that pickup truck. And then maybe Peter and I, the treasurer, will adjust the rotation schedule so that we can just add another pickup truck to our fleet. We need it. So that's what's going on with the motor pool. Sorry if I'm rambling on. It's just that time of year. Road maintenance work, we continue to pick away at that. So there'll be some sort of combination of mill and overlay work. So if you're familiar, milling, you're milling the top 1.5 inch layer off of the worst sections of roads in need. So you're not doing a full resurfacing. You're just kind of piecing together some really rough patches and then laying new asphalt and rolling it. So it's a more permanent fix than just filling in the pothole. Very excited about that work to take place this year. There's some really worthy candidates for it. I'll mention a couple. Park Street's one of them. There's 3 sections of Park Street, also Elizabeth Street, for how heavily used that road is and the construction going on at the high school. I get complaints about Elizabeth Street potholes, but when we go out on site, what we're seeing is that the areas that are rough, they're not deep enough to fix the pothole. So it's just more roughness than it is an actual hole. So the better, more permanent solution would be to mill it and fill it and roll it out. So I think those are two very worthy candidates, and it would be money well spent. So on top of that, we'll do some crack sealing on major roads. I won't bore you with that. We'll just take care of it. And then we'll kind of follow everything up with line striping this year. So we're going to contract that work out. I've mentioned before that I think the Public Works, given the amount of demands that we have, we feel that it's necessary to kind of shake off some of the more routine maintenance, like painting the streets. So that can free up our time a little bit more to do more project-based activities, because there's plenty of projects out there that need our attention. So I think that makes sense for us. And then on top of that, within the next couple of weeks, we'll start turning on the water at all of our parks. We're getting to the point where temperatures are getting a little bit warmer. We're not seeing those deep, hard freezes for long durations. So we can start flipping on irrigation. There's a ton of work that goes into making sure everything's on, adjusted, whatever got frozen. Go ahead.
Do you do the irrigation yourself or do you sub that out?
We do it ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah. And if there's something a little more technical, then we'll sub some stuff out, but for the most part, we do it ourselves. So, yeah. And then, with that too, we'll be able to get Mount Bald Head restroom back open. I think Ryan and I have talked with our plans with AT&T. It would be nice as we rebuild the new restroom facility over there, if we incorporated a water heater into that facility, so that way we can leave it open all year round.
That'd be really nice.
And we wouldn't have to do the maintenance
Yeah.
and, the winterizations, and then people use that park all the time.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what our Public Works' push is on that. I think you agree with that, Ryan?
Yeah.
I don't want to speak for you.
Yeah,
but-
John Moxie, is that in our
Yeah.
plans thus far?
Yeah.
I'll see there. Yes,
Yeah.
totally agree.
So it makes sense. And then, yeah, that's about it. We'll do some sidewalk replacements in the spring. And then primarily focusing on some of the main artery roads that come into town. So like up Lake Street, where we've grinded in the past, we're going to do full replacements on those sections. And then just some broken curbs and stuff like that around the city. And then I think as far as park work goes, we focused a little bit on Village Square Park, the basketball court. We did some pressure washing at the tennis court, the basketball court. We redid the backboards. Now we're going to kind of jump over to Willow Park and pressure wash that deck, get it sealed, and replace any bad boards that are on that deck. Because as we took a closer look at it, it's really not in as bad a shape as what we thought. So we think that we can kind of get quite a bit more life out of it still if we do some basic maintenance. That's all I've got for you. If you have any questions, feel free.
Thank you.
You bet.
Moving on to a discussion item B, study group updates. Mr. Manager, do you have any particular order you want to go in, or do you want to go around the table?
Your pleasure, Madam Chair, however you'd like
Go
to.
around the table. Ruth, would
Okay.
you mind starting?
With the Park Study Group, we have our next meeting next April 21st.
Mhm.
And our goal is to have a presentation of sort by our May meeting. And that's where we'll show what we would like to have happen over there, as well as priorities, top priorities, seasonal priorities, things that we think can happen this year, things we'll have to wait till a couple of years. So that's about it for Park Street. We're keeping them quiet there.
Madam Chair, may I add some updates to the Mount Bald Head area and
Please.
our partnership
Yeah,
with
thanks.
AT&T? Yeah, you're welcome. No worries. So, excuse me, we're finalizing our plans for the restroom facility. So John Moxie with Fleece and Vanderbrink. He's assisting with that. AT&T is actually going to design the restroom facility. So we're just sending them inputs and as far as our needs. That's well on its way. So they're still on track for a very aggressive start date of fall. And
After the Mount Bald Head run, right?
wow, yeah. We put them on.
Keep me up at night.
Don't let it. Also, we discussed with, I should mention that they're also working with their landscape architect, AT&T's landscape architect, for trying to screen in portions of that building where it makes sense. So that would be like the side of it and maybe the backside a little bit. So they're also working on the landscape component of this. Also, we talked to ODC briefly, we is Helen and I, about the potential for them to come up with a revegetation plan along the stairway. So AT&T was open to funding that. ODC is open to developing a plan for revegetation. So that's also in the works. Those are my updates for Mount Baldhead.
Thank you.
Real quick, Ryan. So are there renderings for that yet? I know we saw like a initial one, but is there?
Yes, we do have renderings for that. In fact, we just got back from AT&T yesterday, some updated renderings with some small design changes, but I can push that out to the group.
Kevin, ask a question. Do we have any input at all with that building or is it only AT&T's design and that's it?
No, we have input.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
who's doing the input?
staff, and then we got feedback from council as well. For
Okay.
The aesthetics of the building, the exterior, which, as a reminder for some folks is that we're going to match the pump house, the existing history museum down there. So brick facade with trying to match all the trim and other accoutrements for the restroom facility. We had to get that buy-in really early on from council because AT&T was moving quickly. And so, yeah, we did get
Okay.
their support on that. I think I brought that up at one of.
You
our
did, I
last
just didn't know it
public-
was so already approved
Yeah,
and ready to go.
Moving and shaking.
Did the council talk about the roof on the pavilion?
Mm-mm.
Small picnic?
I think we're just doing that in-house, so Scott's got
You
that.
guys said to do that in-house?
I think that was below the threshold for.
Yeah, meaning, sorry, I didn't rise to like council level.
It was below the threshold for
I'm-
approval.
I'm just curious.
And then existing bathrooms will be gone?
See you later, bathrooms.
Yeah,
And then do we have a water filtration refill going in on the new one?
We do. Yeah, yeah.
We're at,
Moving on.
At
up.
Baldwin, that's awesome.
wow.
I know it. Heated floors, water station. Talked about a little doggy bowl
Shower.
too, but I don't know if that actually made it into the plans.
What?
Little doggy bowl, that little refill for the doggies. Yeah, I don't think it made the plans.
I hope it didn't.
Sorry.
And then is AT&T doing anything in terms of the structure of the steps? Are they putting any down towards that?
No, they're not touching the steps. Nope. That's another project for
upper
another
decking-
day. We knew that would.
Okay, we have that. So
The
upper
decking
deck,
is,
yeah.
the upper decking is gonna be redone by AT&T, right?
I don't know about AT&T,
But it's
but
gonna get redone.
eventually,
Yeah.
yeah, we know it needs love. So.
I guess my issue here is we've got a study group here and I mean, do we get input in that upper decking and the layout of that and everything else?
Sure, we're not quite ready for that project.
Oh, okay.
but
That was,
sure,
oh,
yeah.
I thought it was all set from AT&T.
No, not the steps.
Just the building.
Just the
Got
structure.
it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep,
Otherwise, we might as well work on something else.
right.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Invasive species.
Invasive species.
Any other questions on Mount Baldhead?
Well, is the study group active then?
Not really. No,
Not really, no.
Not on Mount Baldhead yet. No,
No,
no, these
Is
are,
it-
these are projects that were moving before the Parks and Public Works got put together, so. Eventually, the study group will get
Okay.
involved.
that's good to know.
So you'll just like glue them in?
No, I mean, they're gonna,
It's not clear.
I'm not
we're
delirious.
gonna do the whole design shred. You know, we've got those plans from Michigan State and another set of plans from Fleece and Vanderbrink. So there'll be dedicated time to study the platform at the top and other things.
Okay,
and-
so what-
and the
what-
par- the
what-
parking lot layout, all of that.
What they're focusing on is that building, getting the AT&T work done.
Correct.
And that building is going to the left of where the existing one is tucked in there. Okay.
Right, yep, to
With
leave
the
a
brick
nice-
facade and all the other fun stuff happening.
Correct, yep,
Okay.
and then the study group will work on the grand plan.
Got it. Okay. Thanks for that
Thanks for
clear
the
up.
clarification, yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, moving on, you wanna do invasive species?
Well, unfortunately, they're still invasive.
Still invasive?
And I started work on a little map for myself, segmenting the city properties, what's invasive. And it's kind of a long little process. And what we were actually able to do on our property versus other properties that are next door that we can't do anything on, or they aren't doing anything on. So that's really, and what's interesting is I just started reading about the low water levels and how much lower they're gonna get in relation to some of the river invasive species. Like what, purple loosestrife, I believe.
Meaning it'll make it worse or
It'll move it to a different area because of the low water.
like expand it?
Well, not necessarily expanded, but like what was here when the water was high. Now that the water's low, it might move over here.
Oh, do they have a million seed packs in their little heads that loose strife?
Yes.
Kind of like, garlic.
Yes.
So I really don't have any update on it.
Move on to Village Square.
Madam Chair, I have a just real small update for invasives. Allegan County Conservation District reached out to city staff. They're gonna be treating Phragmites along the Kalamazoo River on city-owned property. So these would be like street ends.
But all the, for the tri-community, not just for City of Sauk.
I don't know if they reached out to City Village of Douglas and or Township. Good question.
What are they doing?
Uh,
You can give me a general time.
I don't remember. This summer. Yeah, and they're just gonna treat it, so our team was gonna have to come back and do the removal. Cause they're just gonna hit it with chemical and leave it in place. So after it does its thing, we'll come back and manually remove it.
They're only doing Phragmites.
Yeah, I try to get them up into Peterson Preserve, making a small case for like, these are still waters of the state, can't you just, it's a tributary to the Kalamazoo, can't you just
Mhm.
go up there and do some other invasive treatment? They said not so much, but they can, they said they would look at like the mouth of where the creek comes into the Kalamazoo and see if there's other work to be done, but I tried.
Because there are Phragmites in the preserve.
Yeah, no, they're very specific to, it has to
They're
be on the
only-
Kalamazoo. Their funding sources, I don't know
Okay.
where exactly, but I made the attempt to get them out into other areas and failed.
Okay, Phragmites, I'm not familiar with that, but it's not the green stuff in the water. What is the name
No,
of it?
that's the
Are we-
big, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Are we dealing with that as a city with the green stuff in the water?
Yep, still doing
Okay.
that. Yep, milfoil treatments.
Milfoil, that's,
Yep.
and yeah, are the river people responsible for their lots still, or how are we?
That's
'Cause I
gonna
know
be,
the last time I talked to you, they said the city may do that.
yeah, that's the direction that I'm gonna recommend to council at this
Okay.
point, since we've done, I think this is gonna be our third year of treatment.
Yeah,
It's not gonna be as much. And so what we're talking about is milfoil, like submerged vegetation in the Kalamazoo River. Invasive, very aggressive.
It's
Grows
awful.
up to the top of the water, you'll see it. Then algae grows on top of,
Mm.
and just creates a little bit of a mess. And so the city's been treating milfoil for the last 2 years. We're going into our third year. The way that the city bills for the treatment, because milfoil also grows in front of people's homes, by their docks, what have you. So the city was billing property
Mhm.
owners based on a linear foot basis for treatment. But at this point, I don't even think it's worth us sending out the letters and like the amount of back and forth that it takes administratively.
I
to get
agree,
that done. I
yeah.
think it's just better that we take care of it moving
Yeah,
forward. So we'll see if council agrees.
okay, that sounds great. Because people are asking me that question too. I love being on this department.
Please.
Yeah, thank you. Just on the topic of invasive species, I did reach out to the Outdoor Discovery Center. They put a number together for me for Japanese knotweed. I can kind of talk about that with the invasive species study group, maybe at another time, but one thing within our discussion that they did mention that I'm in support of at the moment, right away, is we still have Oriental bittersweet on the slope of Mount Baldhead. And so they went out and did a site assessment, and I just recently got an email that there's 2 different options for treatment from ODC. One is a targeted cut stump treatment only, and that was in the amount of $3,000. And then there was a more, what sounds to be like a more permanent solution or effective would be a targeted foliar treatment of creeping vines and the cut stump treatment, and that was in the amount of $6,000. So it may be worth a conversation, but that, given the damage that Mount Baldhead has sustained, the vegetation on that slope, it may be appropriate at some point in the near future to consider that treatment.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
Madam Chair, can I back up to Mount Baldhead again?
Please.
You Sure.
Absolutely. We
John,
meet
Moxie-
once a month. We're gonna have conversations.
John, that proposal we approved for you to help us get through the design of Mount Baldhead. You had some dates in there. You had some target dates to kick that off.
Yeah,
Remind us.
for you movie buffs, there's a recent one that came out, Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's kind of what's happening at Mount Baldhead right now. You've got
I like it.
every group is at a little bit different stage and moving at a little bit different pace. But the radar building folks are kind of doing their own thing with the radar building renovation work. The AT&T project is moving, Ryan said it, at kind of light speed for a project of our nature at least. So we're supporting the AT&T project, but what council recently approved is kind of an overall master planning for the park area, and that's moving as quick as we can, trying to keep up with AT&T because we want that project to kind of have a big picture thought as we move into it and, you know, fit with whatever Mount Baldhead is going to be. So the reason Rick, my landscape architect, and I are here is to kind of talk about the process for getting public involvement, kind of bringing all these different study groups and committees and every stakeholder together and get their ideas on the table. We're kind of starting with a blank slate, but really want to start with some kind of a public workshop or a survey or both, or, you know, whatever form that takes. And that's kind of what this committee can help us with is how do we want to engage the public and try and bring out ideas, basically to start kind of narrowing in on this is what we want this park to be. Schedule wise, we've talked about trying to get kind of that public involvement throughout, but starting, you know, as early as April probably. And then try and have a master plan finalized sometime, you know, this year, hopefully this fall. At the latest, to try and get ready for potential grant opportunities and things like that. So a lot of checks along the way, moving from the kind of the study group to this committee to city council ultimately to kind of adopt this master plan basically that can, you know, drive the direction for some of these other things and then set us up for, you know, working on the stairs, working on the top area, working on the pavilion, you know, all these different pieces and parts, you know, kind of having a vision before we start pressing play on all those things. So that's kind of where we're at with the kind of the
That
big
makes
picture
sense.
planning
Good.
work.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And to the comments before, definitely the goal is to have everybody's voice heard. Not that everybody's going to get their way, obviously, with a high profile area like this. Everybody's going to have a little bit different vision for what it should be, but at least trying to come to some kind of a consensus on what we want it to be. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. I have a question going back to invasive species. It is in relation to ODC if I called them, would that be okay? Or do they charge or is it a council?
I think it just depends on what you're looking for. If it's a fact finding thing, it's generally okay. But if it's something like, I'd like to, you know, have you come out and take a look at X, Y, you know.
It's a fact finding thing. I want to find out if there's a different solution to actually, instead of removing or killing an invasive species, if it's possible to overlay it with another species that pushes it out, it kills it.
I think with something that specific, we might want to go through city staff to.
Yeah, or you could, yes, that's the
Okay.
correct answer. And then also you could use Allegan County Conservation District, ask the same question, that would be more appropriate, and or Michigan State Extension based in Allegan City.
Thank you.
Thank you. We good on bald head? We good on species?
Yeah.
So far,
I feel like-
let's see what we generate as we go along here.
Alan. Jeez.
I was before I go around the horn. Do you want, Glenna or Kelly, would you like to address Village Square?
Well, we really haven't met.
No, so I think probably you guys met with ODC, so if you want to share on that, and then the only thing that Glenn and I have worked on is we talked about getting some themes together for the new play space, and so we called the Saugatuck Douglas Historical Society, talked with Eric over there. They have a big exhibit that's about to go live this spring, and so they're gathering all that together, and so that would be a great time to sort of
That's
look
wonderful.
historically through different themes that might be cool to pull in there, so.
All right.
I think we were also waiting on two things. There was gonna be the survey, which I saw them down there doing, but I don't see the flags.
You must see one flag.
There's one flag.
The land survey, not the community survey.
Yeah, I haven't seen what they did. Maybe we pulled the flags and put in metal posts. I don't know.
Checked it out after the survey. And we found that 3 used stakes put in. And one old one uncovered in one of the corners, so. Actually talked to Ryan Cummings whenever that survey comes back with a drawing. We can go back through and put in more T-post stakes that we can actually see where it's at.
Yeah, I think the big question was like, how much of that hill
Mhm.
do we own? Do you happen to look at it?
3/4 of it.
Oh, pretty far up. eh?
2/3 of them. Is that right?
That's what, from the drawings, that's what I was
Flat drawings look like
suspecting,
that. I
yeah.
agree. Yeah, I looked
Yeah.
that up. Yeah.
And then we were also waiting on the playground inspection.
That is something we talked to ODC about. Yep.
Mhm.
Did that get scheduled? Thursday? Nice. This Thursday? Nice.
Yeah, so we're going to have another meeting with ODC on site for the Village Square Playground. Our meeting that we had with ODC, Helen and I and others, addressed 3 projects, the Village Square, airport property, and then Mount Bald Head revegetation. So for the Village Square, we just told them conceptually what's happening right now. They indicated that they would be willing partners. We, in this case, the we is I, have to develop a basic scope of work for them, and then they'll send a proposal. They're also very sensitive to their bandwidth for the people that do work on the playgrounds, but they are extremely interested in partnering with the city, so they're gonna make room for us.
And I get they were very flexible too, as far as like, so do the inspection and that, and when we decided what we're gonna be doing with Village Square or with the playground, for example,
Mhm.
they were saying like, they would do even parts of it like the nature, the,
Mhm.
climbing station
Mhm.
possibly, but then if you wanted to go a different way and the playground equipment, there's flexibility there. They were
Okay.
not all or nothing on the,
Okay,
On the
yeah,
scope.
that's good to know. I visited the one
we
in
understood that the same way,
in
yes.
downtown Holland. And there are parts of it I like and parts of it I don't like that ODC.
My
did,
understanding
so-
that's more geared for younger children and possibly the older children wouldn't be as interested, but I don't know. I don't have
Mhm.
older or
Yeah,
younger
and
children,
just
so.
yeah, so if we involve ODC, I kind of see it as maybe a part, part and then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they know what's in their wheelhouse, and I mean, they really talked about the fact that they use like wood that they gather from around the county, so they reuse wood, and they build the stuff themselves, and so that's kind of their focus. Is
Even
to-
from trees that we have to take down, they would say that you would save a tree. If DPW had to take a tree down, they would save that tree and
That'd be great.
use it.
Yeah, and so, I mean, the way Holland worked it, and I would envision the same for Saugatuck, is there was a engineer working on it, ODC, and then all the stakeholders, so it was a trifecta. If that makes sense. The engineer would focus, again, ODC is like very targeted for the natural landscape playground stuff. That's their focus, and education. They want to find lots of opportunities to educate folks on the natural environs, which we knew you would love.
I do.
Okay, good.
We all do. From there, we moved on to the airport property. and talked-
Hold just a second. I know that there was that, everyone received the letter from Dan Sheridan about the basketball thing. Okay, so we gotta make sure.
I actually, I wanted to talk to Sarah. It was too late in time to come for the packet, and I replied to him that I would make sure that it got into the
Thank you,
next.
yeah. I just saw it in
next
that,
month's
my
packet.
email, so I just. wanted to
Yeah.
make sure. Got
I
it.
would like
Okay.
that in next month's packet. It should be
Email
available.
it and I can put anything in.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for bringing that up. I do
Yeah,
have to know here to make
no
sure that
worries.
it gets included. So on the airport property, we talked to ODC on that as well. And basically the things that you would expect, there needs to be an ecological evaluation and a sustainability evaluation. Really talking at, I always say the low hanging fruit level. What it would take, what we need to do logistically to just basically open up some of the trails that are already existing to the public. And so they came back with a proposal for what they would have to do for ecological evaluation, sustainability, and then, even on down to planning and the other services that are available for planning sessions and whatnot between council, city, whoever needs to be involved in that. So it was a long meeting, it was a good meeting, and that is my objective with the airport property at this point, is just to get us to a place where we can open up the trails that already exist, legitimize them, and open it to the public. And this is would be the first step in that, and to take it. And it's a conservation step. There's nothing about this that would prevent us from conserving it in the future or at any time. But I really am a big believer that people don't miss what they don't know that they have. And right now, people don't know that they have this. And so I am going to be looking for us to approve this proposal to get to council. In all transparency, we don't even have to do this, it's below the threshold, but just in the interest of full transparency to the public, to PPW and to council, we are going to take this to them in the formal way. So no one have any questions? No?
No, well, my only question would be, with the timeline that's listed here, is that it looks like the ecological evaluation would not be available to us until August. So it looks like really this season, in terms of being able to open this to the public, would be.
I would say
negated.
that
So
we would
just
be
wanted to-
moving on government time in this still. I
the
mean,
timeline on this,
Yeah.
as far as what our expectations are.
I think that that's a reasonable expectation that's going to take. We're going to have to get through this before we start, removing some of the brush or whatever that's on the trails, and that unless-
Theoretically, it could be opened by fall or early winter.
possibly, yeah.
Okay. I just want to be able to update the airport study group too, because I know there's a lot of people interested, obviously. with
Absolutely. Yep.
Bauer and Scott Kajik and that, just to make sure that they're aware of
Absolutely.
what our timeline is currently done.
Okay. Anything else?
The optional piece, airport property planning whiteboard session.
Yes.
Do we want input on that? Like, what would be the value of doing that versus not doing it?
Right now, we're going to ask that it's done and included in the motion for the, but we're gonna ask for the full $6,500 to go before council. And then I think that, it's always something that it could be omitted, right? If it were determined, I have a hard time believing it would be determined to not have value. I think that we're gonna want that input and that kind of involvement in something as big as this, and especially for that amount of money, it doesn't seem unreasonable to me anyway.
It seems to me like if we did go after any grants for that property, you do have to have public input, and
Yes.
that piece would
Yep.
provide that.
Mhm.
So
Agreed.
And I'm sorry, I was just gonna mention that you have a motion.
I'm ready to do that. Okay.
And the rest-
And with that, I move to recommend that city council approve the proposal for conservation services from the Outdoor Discovery Network in an amount not to exceed $6,500.
I second the motion.
Motion by Baldwin, second by Johnson. Voice vote or roll call?
Let's go
I
roll
don't know,
call on this.
parliamentary.
Fun.
Can you make a motion?
Yeah, you ready for roll?
Yes, I'm ready, sorry. Baldwin?
I don't vote. Thank
Oh,
you.
I'm sorry, Chair,
Yeah.
Dion,
yes,
Johnson,
Yes.
Kimball. Yes. And Roach.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I am surprised at how many people don't want anything to happen on this
I
property.
know. It's disappointing. I agree.
Yeah, it's, it's amazing. I mean.
Well,
And,
I
I'm
think-
not talking about Keith.
I think
I'm
it's-
just talking about it. I'm just talking about people that are coming
Well, I
up
think
to me
there's-
and they're,
I'm open to it.
There's
I'm
two-
open
I
to
don't
very
wanna
sensitive. being-
I don't want
Yeah.
a lot of trails on it, and I don't want community events on it. And I'm being open about that hardcore. I mean,
Yeah.
the more non-hiking, the more events you have, the less wildlife you will have.
Fully
the
appreciate that.
more-
Yeah, I'm,
For instance,
do.
there used to be Japanese or Chinese ginkgo at the state park. When we first moved here, it's a Chinese herb and it grew natural. And it's all gone. I
gonna
mean,
grow naturally.
Well, I think that's just the name of it. I don't think it came from. And it's gone, whether it was picked or whether it was trampled. But and I'm sure that over time that'll happen to this property too. It'll get heavily used. But you can foreshadow it by not opening it up in mass with.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the last picture here, a lot more threats. than that.
I think there can be a happy marriage.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And that's why I would say that, you know, if we just open there
Mhm.
already are trails there. They exist.
Yeah,
Yep.
they do.
And-
I agree. with
And
you
another place for
100%.
people to enjoy it, without, you know, no one suggesting that we have a concert over there right now or anything. like
Dang
that. So, and the other thing to keep in mind, again, I'm speaking for myself. People that want to conserve things think that we can just like put a fence around something and leave it.
And
That is the best way to
that's
make
not
sure.
where it comes
I know,
from.
but that's the best way to make sure that someday a developer snatches it up when we've got
Exactly.
the council
Yeah.
that would be open to the idea, and that is something that I don't think most of us would want. And frankly, that property belongs to the citizens of Saugatuck.
Yeah.
If there's a way that they can make use of it,
You
I
know,
think that
don't
that's
know,
just
like
fair.
I Discuss also, I don't know what level it goes to, but putting a conservation easement on the property, so down the line, it doesn't get sold to the developer.
And I had
We
offered
talked
to
about
contact
that.
Ruth, to come in from Land Conservancy.
Yeah, I
and
think we
talk
talked
the
about-
Possibilities.
yeah.
So anytime we're ready for that.
And so anytime, so anything that we're moving on, again, with public comment in on this is moving in that direction, that we are not going to
Yep.
abandon any opportunity we have for grants, for conservation. We're gonna move, if I have anything to say about it,
Mhm.
hand in hand with that.
Step one is getting this. Yeah.
Getting the ecological evaluation. I mean,
Ecological
why wouldn't we want to
evaluation.
see
We
if there's
do.
any contaminants on the property? Why wouldn't we want to see,
We do.
you know, any kind of sustainable? Why
Yep.
wouldn't we want to see if there's wet marshes that we need to preserve? There are things out there that just
This
are
is a good first step.
very
Mhm.
low hanging fruit in really for $6,500.
Yep,
It
I
just
think
makes
it's good.
sense. And again, city could have just gone and done this on their own. It doesn't meet the threshold, but with full transparency for the
Yep.
public, for all of us, we're taking it formally. That was the whole plan.
It's gonna be good.
Quick question in addition to this, is this also testing the retired landfill?
That was separate. The
That's-
retired landfill is, that has to be done.
We have a separate proposal for the environmental assessment for the airport property, and John can help explain that briefly. I don't think we didn't include the landfill in that proposal.
No, what we have a proposal that's going, I think, to next council workshop, is for a phase one environmental assessment. A phase one is normally used when you're purchasing a piece of property to give you some level of protection against liability of existing contamination on that property. It's basically going through records, previous uses, you know, things that we can see without doing a lot of invasive testing and things like that. Again, this isn't a situation where the city's purchasing the property, so it doesn't necessarily need to happen. It's just kind of a matter of good practice, we think, and following that same format at least gives us some assurance that we follow, you know, we didn't just make up some kind of scope of work to do to look at this property. We followed the actual, you know, state regs for when you would purchase a property and put it into some kind of new use.
And that's in
something like
relation to the airport. property.
That is at the airport property.
Nothing going on with the landfill.
That's correct.
Could we make a recommendation to the
Yes.
council to?
I thought that we had talked about having
We did
the
discuss it
methane
last time.
tested. Yeah, we just got
Mhm.
about having the methane tested, and I was under the impression that the fire department did that, but I don't know.
That's kind of out in the universe. There's been nothing decided on what direction we want to go with the.
So shouldn't we get the
landfill
landfill tested while we're looking at it?
Can we draw it into the current galaxy?
Yeah, take that recommendation, that's fine,
Okay,
yeah, but
yeah.
you know, now we're talking about a separate property, but that work's gonna have to be done eventually.
Okay,
So, if you all would recommend an environmental assessment for the airport property, excuse me, the landfill, then.
okay.
Yeah.
Is it not
take that to
adjacent
council.
or not?
Yeah, for some reason I thought that was sort of included in this.
It's not included in the
Okay.
ODC.
It's not.
Well, no, I didn't know if it was included in this. That's why I asked.
I
but
studied.
I thought it was included in
Oh my
terms
God,
of
there
the
we go.
parcel, like we consider that all to be
Stop it.
one. So we're two.
Separate deal.
Do you want a motion on that?
Should we,
Let's see, is it?
Make it that easy?
Let's. Not specifically listed on your agenda.
can we draft language to have the council take it up at the next workshop?
Why don't you just kind of get consensus that you are being directed from your Parks and Public
Okay.
Works Committee to do it?
I feel like I have the consensus.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Anything more formal than that we need to do?
Not at
Okay,
this time.
we'll present it.
yep, that's what
Wonderful.
we need to do.
I have something else about the airport property.
Please.
At last week's meeting, the special meeting for the 5-year Parks and Rec plan. There was a gentleman afterwards that was handing out
Yeah.
letters.
Yes.
James Cook.
Yeah, so, read that, I don't think it was him, but somebody else, it's a big concern all of a sudden with the HOA over at the, golf course, what is that, the ravines over there? It's
Okay.
right next to it. And they've only heard bits and pieces and I think may have had some good information and some misinformation. But one of the people, not the guy that handed out the letter, contacted,
Mhm.
Riverwood Council. And so John, took them out there and said, this, these are the trails that we're looking at, because they thought they were gonna be right in their backyard and all of this.
Mhm.
So you
And
took
they
the
weren't-
HOA from the ravines.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, this is all new information.
Yeah,
to
no,
me.
I-
Right,
okay.
yes.
I heard
So-
about that too.
Okay.
He calmed them way down and instead of, coming opposing it, they might come with, I'm thinking some support.
Oh, wonderful.
For conserving it and, they thought, we were gonna go in and, build everything on there, next
Right.
year. So, I think that we'll be hearing from them and I think it will be a good thing
Oh,
because they'll be
good.
in support of conservation. Yeah.
It's wonderful to hear. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And I just also, I was out of town, I think. I haven't been to any of the meetings on the property, but, just read basically these minutes and it talks about parking for 500 cars.
This is, so
And
that is,
that's frightening.
no,
Yeah.
And that could be what, if people,
Yeah.
this is in the packet, so this is available. So
Mhm.
this is,
that's things that other people have brought, like, if people talk about what could be
Right.
done, and then that was like Rick Bauer from the
Right.
school's idea about what could be done in the future, but none of that is on the table right now.
okay.
That is
I can
frightening.
see why people would get up in arms.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
If this
Yep,
is
I
out there.
agree. Yep.
If you go back into the, I think it was Ryan that sent it out to all of us. It was the 2009 study that Kirk Carrier and the city council at that time had done.
Mhm.
When it was the senior center, that actually goes into how many parking spaces existed on the property as it exists today. Obviously, we would have to figure that out. But I mean, they already had that parcel. The property was set up like that. So if you look at that, it'll tell you how many parking spaces they already had existing on the property.
I don't think I got that.
Did I email it out to all Parks and Public Works Committee members? I
don't know.
don't
I don't
remember.
understand. I'm happy to send.
I will resend it or send it or
Yeah.
yes.
I don't think I got it either.
No, I requested it and then I think you sent it to me and maybe you got it.
Probably in the
Okay.
study group,
Yeah.
because I didn't
Sent it to
receive
the
it.
whole group, yeah.
That's the last time that the airport property has been studied to my knowledge through an engineering firm,
Hmm.
and it's really good stuff. It's interesting, and it's a lot of things that we're talking about currently of, okay, how could this be utilized? Was talked
Mhm.
about.
And
all
it,
those
and it
years ago.
also is like really outdated too in some respects where they talk about, oh, the property is worth probably $350,000. That's interesting for 170 acres of Saugatuck property. I think I know a lot of investors. We were even here last night that would have been happy to jump all over that.
This is 09, so we're coming out of. the
Yeah.
recession, But yeah,
Yeah.
we're talking about how depressed the
So-
economy was here then, and
Yeah.
it's very interesting.
Yeah.
It is interesting, yeah.
So, yeah,
I
my
just
point is
said
I
I
would
add
caution
my name
against.
to the study group because I would like to be, kept informed of what's going on. And that's what I need to do, then I'll
Mhm.
happily.
But you're gonna send that?
Yeah. I'll send it
Okay,
out to the
thanks.
committee.
Okay.
That's kind of important.
Anything else on airport? Okay, next, we're going to talk Tri-Community Parks and Recreation Master Plan update. I think everyone was here for that, save one.
No.
Okay. I think it went well. In the past, did you want to speak to it or? is
No,
it
you
fine?
can.
Okay, so, basically there are 4 entities that, share, obviously Douglas, the township, us and the schools are, all invested in our tri-county, tri-community rather, Parks and Recreation Master Plan. The 3 of them had done theirs together, I think as far back as was shown, as far as they've been doing them. At some point, Saugatuck opted out in 09 or was it 2019? So 2019 only, okay. And it was funny because we sat there and we didn't know why. Brian asking, I'm like, I don't know. I wasn't on board for that. And so it just makes sense. We believe, we're all interconnected, and the idea that we would somehow, peel off, I don't think makes a lot of sense for from a community effort. And so I believe that we've got support to join. And I think we have to take that before council.
We do.
We have to take it to council and have them agree to do it. The study, so then basically, and the other thing that we need to do too, and I think we owe this to the and I forget her name, forgive me, Lynette. We owe her two people that would be on the RFP process for selecting the vendor to guide the Parks and Rec master plan. So to that, I don't know, do we already have these folks selected or do we?
No.
So if anyone, can I put it out there?
Part of. Put what out there?
If someone is willing to volunteer to be on the RFP?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I don't know if we've got anyone on our committee that would like to work on the RFP process. If not, I'm happy to volunteer, but I'm assuming it's gonna be someone from staff. I'm looking at you.
Yes.
And then,
Yes.
and then likely one of us. So happy to volunteer if nobody else wants to do it. Also happy to relinquish that role if somebody else is interested. RFPs are,
What does that entail?
A lot of boring stuff. Sorry, not to.
it is, yeah. That's why I don't want to do it. I'll do it if I have to. Yeah.
Honestly, it's probably looking at templates for other communities that have done this and just taking what's good and probably some of our previous RFPs. The tricky bit is city of Saugatuck is going to have its own unique assets, park assets, recreation assets that aren't totally interconnected with the other communities. So it's going to be kind of a dual path where we're working together on our commonalities, like waterway trails was mentioned quite a bit, like
Bike paths.
Blue Star Trail.
Blue Star
Riverwood
Trail.
Council.
mostly trails.
Connecting trails, yeah.
Yeah, and then,
Signage, we talked about.
yeah,
signage, yeah.
signage. And then we'll have our unique assets that we'll work on individually and then try to fold them into this master plan. Police and Vanderbrink, they've done the previous plan, so a lot of that information's there because we have to have a lot of like demographic information. So a lot of that's there. We just probably need to update that. So yeah, it's kind of tricky, but it's not all too different than the Blue Star Trail. Wherein there's a one group that's focused on, township, city, and a little portion in Douglas. And we're working on all of the common features of the trail width, materials, signage, what have you. And then we have our own unique amenities that the city will have to focus on. Those Parks and Public Works, as I'm recommending it. Like I've mentioned this before, the pallet sign, that's gonna the trail is gonna be very close to the pallet sign, so we have to figure out what needs to be done there. And then some of the aesthetic elements over the bridge, that the vertical elements that divide the cars from the pedestrians and bikes. So we'll, work on that separately with just city folk. And then we'll, tie that into the overall plan. So it's the same process. We have our unique needs, but we also have common themes and common things that we need to work on. So we're gonna do both at the same time.
But wouldn't the RFP mostly be about vendor selection?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, but you have to lay out the scope very clearly, so that the vendor knows what they're getting
Okay.
into. They're not doing the work for all communities. They're gonna be working, they may hire, City Village of Douglas may hire somebody that does both their unique features and our common
Shared stuff.
shared stuff. Thank you. That's the best. term,
Yeah,
Shared stuff. But that doesn't necessarily, for us, it makes the most sense to use Police and Vanderbrink again, because again, all the information is all there, like all the maps, drawings and stuff. Well, they can be updated, of course, and we're in that process for some of our major parks. So it's tricky. All that to say is that, yes, this is vendor selection, but we have to create a scope of work that's pretty clear. So I'll be working with the managers on that, Rich and Daniel, and whoever the school board.
and not to put
recommends.
anyone on the spot today, but I think we agreed, you guys were all here, I think we agreed April 4th, we have to get
Mhm.
an answer to them.
Mhm.
So I'd like you guys to consider it and please reach out to me, Ryan, and let me know if there's any interest in that. Like I said, there's being
is-
volunteered and voluntold. I will be voluntold if no one else volunteers. How's that?
I'm interested, but obviously, designing an RFP is boring. So I guess I'm wondering, but would it be better to, if you're gonna be involved, so.
So think about it. Like I said, I didn't mean to spring it on anybody but I know we have a time thing and the one thing I don't want to do is miss any deadlines. I'm starting to sweat it. It's like, I know that it's not due until February, but February is going to come fast, right? And it's just easy to put stuff off when you think, oh, we're in here for summer. No, I mean, we need to get on it and I don't want to be a drag on it at all. So that's where I'm coming from on that. Anything else on track committee?
No.
Master plan? Okay. Review next steps. I think. Are we in that place already through the discussion or do we need to go on to something else at that point?
I don't have anything.
All right. Well, then I'll open it up public comment at this point for 3 minutes. If you would put podium and state your name and address, if anyone's interested in making a public comment. Okay, well, with that, I will close public comments. No one online at all. Member closing comments. We'll go around the table. We'll start this way this time. We'll start with Nancy.
Okay, so I did think I'd give just a couple of comments on the Blue Star Trail because we didn't really touch on that.
Yeah.
So where we are right now is trying to get the contract signed and approved, I guess, finalized with C2AE. That's the engineering firm that'll be doing the detailed design work for the trail. And so we had hit the little bit of the road bump because Saugatuck Township didn't get all their funding. But, the groups have met together and decided that we're going to proceed anyway. And then there was a little bit of a question of, well, who's going to pay for the engineering work that needs to be done? Because we've got basically the Friends who are contributing money as well as Saugatuck City and the township. But it was decided that we would prorate those costs according to how much each group is contributing. And that seemed to be agreeable to everybody. But I think the council, so I think we're waiting right now for attorney comments from Saugatuck Township. We already have ours from the city. And hopefully then we will get those and that can be brought to council for their April, is it 10th meeting?
Your next meeting, whenever that is, April 5th. Wait.
I looked at-
No, it's the
It's April
second
10th.
Monday, so it couldn't be. Oh, workshop maybe. It's coming to
Right.
the workshop.
Yeah, but you can't really approve it at the workshop.
No,
right?
that's
sounds
the
amazing.
workshop.
Yeah, so anyway, yeah, I looked it up because it's actually April 10th is the next council meeting. So I guess with the goal of if they can approve it and Saugatuck Township also would need to approve it. And that their meeting would be April 12th. So hopefully if that can get signed, then they can actually start on this detailed design work and then we can finally get into, the pallet sign and all that. good
Yeah, I was
stuff.
gonna say, what's the urgency of that pallet sign, figuring that?
I don't think we
maneuver-
can work on it until they come to us with options.
Right.
Or you can do it
Got
this
it.
way or you can do it that way.
Got it.
That's my
Correct.
expectation. And then I just thought I would mention, because Friends of Blue Star Trail are still obviously working to raise more money.
Yeah.
So a lot of focus right now is on our Toast Gala, which will be June 26th. And because you are all stakeholders, you all will be invited.
26. All right.
It is
Put that
gonna
in my-
be at this place I have never heard of, Innisfree, INNISFREE Farm, which is I think near Pullman.
That's a council meeting night. It's a Monday.
It's a Monday. Oh, bummer.
It's okay,
Oh,
but
Okay.
you're gonna have Holly at the council meeting too. Just something to think about.
They were actually gonna do it, we were gonna do it at the Ivy House right here practically in town. And the expenses were such that it was just not, we weren't gonna make enough money off of it to do it there. So they came up with this as an alternative. I just had one other completely unrelated comment, which was, the packet that we get is so thorough and everything, but we really get it kind of short notice. Is it possible to get that just a bit earlier? Because, like last night I had plans, so I got up early this morning and I was reading everything, but just, just a comment. Can we get that out a little bit sooner?
Thank you.
That's it.
Yep. Looking forward to the meeting on Thursday with ODC, so I hope I can be there. But as soon as we know the playground inspection, I think it'd be great to look at that because I am concerned about the safety of the kids playing on that. And then I'm also anxious to see the survey and really see where those survey sticks are. So hopefully we can look at that Thursday also, and then we can plan our next steps.
Nice.
Okay. So, in going through the packet this week, I love that the ODC headlines sustainability as part of what they're offering to the community is going to be with hiring them. And so in that regard, I would love for when I went through the 5-year master plan, we don't have anything specifically called out on sustainability. We don't have anything specifically called out on conservation. And we have in all of the goals, like goal 1, 2, 3, even like in 12, like I think it goes through 12. It talks about the quality of life and the wellness in our community, but we don't have anything called out specifically in terms of metrics. Like, how do we measure this? How do we know that people are doing well and that we're offering the things that help people live healthier lives? And so I would love for us to start thinking about that if we're collaborating for sort of the 30,000 foot view with the other communities, is adding those points in. So it's something that we create big goals around and say, okay, these are the things we'd love to see, and then break it down into how would we get there? Because I noticed, like, I mean, the tri-community plan is incredibly thorough, and I go through it and I agree with it. And I don't see that we made a lot of strides with it. And I would love for our group, and now that the Parks Commission in the township is so active, I feel like we've got a lot of energy surrounding this right now. And I think that got momentum, and I'd love to see us really act on a lot of this stuff. So those are my comments on that. And then the other thing I'd like to share with the group is there is property called, it's the Ridgepoint property. So it's Ridgepoint Church in, I think it's Zealand. I found out about it through Dan Boersma, who's the sustainability manager for Holland. He's an awesome guy. He has tons of information and education. He runs a personal website too. It's like called, I think it's called Sustainably Dutch. He's got a podcast, if you're into that sort of thing. It's so interesting because he's been in this game for 30 years. So when I told him about what we were trying to do with the airport property, they have already done that with a public-private partnership in Zealand. And so it was a church property that had a ton of acreage. And then they got with ODC and they got with the city, and they put in cross-country trails, and they've done some really cool stuff there. So I have not been yet, but I wanted to, I can send out the plans. He's got a whole PowerPoint of like how they did it, the partnerships. You would not believe the number of people.
Paved?
I don't
I
believe
mean,
it's
not
paved.
paved, but with walking paths and.
There are some walking paths because of wetlands and things.
I've been.
Yeah, I have not yet. But he was glowing about it. And what's cool that I can send out is that he breaks it down where I think there's a lot of learnings that our group could take into account in terms of what we're trying to accomplish there and what's already happened successfully in a very near community. So anyway, that's it for me.
Thank you.
I
Sure.
don't have it.
Nothing?
Well,
Invasive species still invasive and.
it's a standard line of mine, yeah. All right, I will, in relation to what I'm going to do, I will contact the Allegheny Conservation District. And I will contact MSU to find out more about, and maybe ODC to find out what we can do actually, if there's a blanket, instead of killing things, to overlay it with something that's sustainable growth. So we don't have to use poison.
Makes sense.
And I know it's not in our bailiwick, but I'm also thinking about what I'm going to suggest to council that we do a no mow May.
No.
Yeah, I like
Oh, no,
that.
oh, May.
Yeah.
You ever heard that?
Mhm.
Because May is actually the time when so many things come to life. And in a community like ours now, that we're a huge secondary home system, so many things are killed. Every lawn you see, and I'm probably going off topic here, but I'm gonna suggest that.
Member comments.
Pardon me?
It's member comments. You're fine to go off topic.
When it feeds, it
It's
feeds.
every lawn is you
Yeah.
see is basically a dead lawn. It's like when you see a farm field and there's nothing growing, it's just dirt. It's just devoid of all life until a new crop is planted, and then you have pesticides and herbicides. So somebody uses, for example, somebody would say, hey, I've got ticks or I've got mosquitoes. Well, when you have a mosquito spraying service, you're killing every bug on your property, not just the mosquitoes. So there's nothing for the birds to eat. There's nothing for the squirrels to eat. There's nothing for the raccoons to eat. There's nothing for any mammal or bird to eat on your lawn. So I'm gonna suggest to council that we can do a no mow May, because I believe there's an ordinance on the books right now that says you have to cut your lawn. Because I used to take care of a couple of vacant pieces of property and I let them grow. And once you, like, for instance, if you don't mow around a tree and you let things grow up, at night, if you go, you'll see some moths there that are probably 4 or 5 inches. Because that's where they hide, is next to a tree. But when people mulch around their trees, it's very pretty because we have a lot of pretty properties around here, but you won't get any wildlife. You won't get any bugs, you won't get any insects, you won't get any newts, you won't get any salamanders, and it's almost salamander season. And so that's one thing I'm gonna suggest, and the other one is, you did note on this in your recent comment. I think we should almost, come up with some environmental suggestions. What to use, what not to use on your lawns, what's good for the environment, because what we.
Like create an education program?
Yeah.
Is that what you're suggesting?
Or, it can be just suggestions too, but, I don't know where the aquifer main. I don't know how the aquifer works around here, but we do use well water. And whatever we're putting on our lawns, whatever we're putting in the system, whatever the farms are using. Leaks down, and and it doesn't get filtered. I mean, it might get a little filtered, but we might not be drinking it, but whatever we put on our into the system now will come up 50 years, 100 years down the line. And so unless we're taking like Michigan water out of the system, which needs to be treated probably a lot less, a future KLSWA is going to have to treat it a lot more.
But I like that it's education, and I mean, I think a lot of people don't even know like what happens when you fertilize your lawn. So, I mean, I think it could be.
Sadly, that's the
DPW.
truth. Yeah.
Nitrogen, phosphorus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you just think like, oh, I saw it on TV and it's green and it should be fine. So, yeah, I get it.
Based on, can I ask a question or do we need to move on?
Go ahead.
So, per what we were talking about with the mill, excuse me, the milfoil, we studied that as a city, correct? In terms of how much of that was it created by fertilizer runoff? And I don't remember. I remember reading the study and I don't remember what the answer was to it. And then for that, then do we have an ordinance surrounding what specifically what's happening with fertilization around with the properties directly on the water? And then, for instance, I'm on the hill, everything I do on my property rolls directly down into the watershed. And I don't know the answer to that in terms of ordinance. So is that something that our group could have a conversation about and then put to council and say, hey, these are things that we need to look at? And it's, some of it's about timing of application. If you apply it and the rain comes, boom, it hasn't dried and then it's going directly into the watershed. I mean, there's different ways that you could, different strategies that you could take that some might be more palatable than others.
Even if you have just a 5-foot space that allows that runoff like full of stone, that the stone then can clean it before it gets back in the water. I mean, we had talked at our original meeting about doing city properties where we kind of have that buffer where we clean the runoff before it gets into the water as best as we can. I mean, we can even promote that too, even on our own little city properties.
Well, if you go down to across from the SCA at Coghlan Park, there's a beautiful.
the
signage
rainwater,
set
yeah.
About how they have that
Mhm.
filtration system. So
It's
everything
not
that,
connected.
what's that?
It's not connected.
It's not connected?
It still is taking in stuff though.
I
It
I mean,
still
that's
is a
not what
good
you're insinuating by that. so-
Originally, it was taking all the SCA
Yeah,
water.
it's
off
not
there,
doing it.
everything Going and
Yeah.
then never
Mm-mm.
connected.
They never connected it. Yeah,
That's misleading because.
it is misleading, but it's the concept. It does,
It's very.
It's very misleading because I read that as we
Does
were going
work.
into this parks.
it works when
Committee.
it's
I
connected.
read all the signage around
Mhm.
town just to see what we had, and that is insinuating that they have that filtration system set up.
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry. We did get off topic. It's
Yeah, we
still-
did.
yeah.
That's all right.
Member
Yeah.
Keith's,
I didn't elongate any meeting.
it
Um,
is
Next,
Something
comment
about the
section
water,
also.
so.
Okay.
sorry, guys.
That's okay. Two things. I love that idea. I think we definitely need to do something. And I love the no mow May because it does also feed the bees that are out. And I did that last couple of years, and you'd be surprised at the natural flowers that come up just in a month, and the little bees are out there, so I love that idea. I think that should be something everyone should try. Secondly, I think there's things to Glenn up. Is his name Chris Clark? He's interested in doing the Mount Bald Head study group when we get back together. He has some great ideas about including the trails of Mount Bald Head within our study group. And I like that idea. I read what you guys had. I think it's fun. And I think it's important because it's a whole different beast out there that we can talk about too out there. It's a natural thing. So just my comments.
Well, thank you. I guess it's my turn. Mostly I just want to thank everybody here again. I sincerely mean it. I know it's a lot of work and it's a lot of effort, but I feel like we've got some solid momentum. Love the fact that we're going to get this proposal to council. I can't imagine it being turned down. It's a solid proposal. I'm excited to ask them to look at approving a similar situation for landfill testing. And looking forward to where we go next. So again, thank you to everybody here. Thank you to DPW and everyone that showed up. Appreciate you. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Motion Chair, second Roach. All in favor?
Yeah.
Yeah. Opposed? Meeting adjourned.